What's going on, guys, and welcome back to another video. So this week is actually going to be a very eventful week. Congress is actually coming back to work. They will be back off of their recess, their 1 week long recess. So hopefully they got a little bit done while they were away. Here's what I can tell you. Democrats currently have all the power in the world to pass their $3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill. However, the fighting between one another is what's causing so many disagreements. Here's where things currently stand. Progressives want to go as low as $2.5 trillion. Moderates want to go as high as $1.5 trillion. So there's about a $1 trillion gap. The problem is President Biden, he has already said that anywhere between $1.9 and $2.3 trillion is where this package needs to be. So the expectation is it's going to pass around $2 trillion. That means there will be major cuts. Now, we know Senator Joe Manchin, he wants to see the climate policy weakened. This is something that he actually addressed on Friday. Nancy Pelosi, she still wants to see Obamacare shored up. However, there is some pushback that is not the most needed at this time. Senator Bernie Sanders, he wants to see Medicare fully expanded. That's vision, dental, and hearing. But some say that some of those could be delayed a little bit. Senator Joe Manchin demands that work requirements are put into the child tax credit payments. Senator Kyrsten Sinema, she doesn't support the current tax increases on wealthy individuals and large corporations in order to provide revenue for this bill, which would come up to roughly $700 billion over the next 10 years. We know multiple progressives are still fighting for immigration reform, even though the Senate parliamentarian has said this could not be included. They are still working on this, and this is one of their 5 pillars. We know free community college is all but out, but here's where things get very interesting. Some are actually asking President Biden to finally cancel student debt up to $50,000 per borrower in order to combat this change that, okay, free community college is out. Well, let's fix it by providing some student loan cancellations over here on this side. So that's kind of what we're hearing at this time. We know that Pramila Jayapal, who is the U.S. Progressive Caucus chairwoman, she says that they will pass all legislation. This is not going to be, we're not going to pit childcare versus affordable housing. We're not going to pit, affordable housing versus Medicare. We're not going to pit Medicare versus, paid family and medical leave. We're not going to do that. So she says the way we will get this done is we will just cut all lengths of these policies. So here's where things and this fighting really starts to come down, because right now we are on a deadline. There is a deadline in place. That deadline is October 31st. And it's not October 31st because of Nancy Pelosi saying, you know what, let's get this done by the end of October. That's not the reason why. The reason why is because there's actually a short-term extension for the Surface Transportation Program through October 31st. Now, we could address this if we pass the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill. So that's the reason why passing both bills by October 31st is seen as the next deadline or the next goal. But again, to pass the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill, we first have to come to an agreement, vote, and pass on that human infrastructure bill, which is going to be anywhere between $1.5 and $2.5 trillion. But again, they're still trying to determine and figure out and finalize this bill, because they still don't know what's going to be in it for sure. The child tax credit payments will be included. As to how many years they are extended, we don't know. As to how this bill is going to be paid for because of the new opposition from Kyrsten Sinema, again, we don't know. But this is the goal, is to get this done by October 31st, which is in 14 days, 2 weeks. What I can tell you, based off of what lawmakers are saying, is that this is going to be an almost impossible target to hit October 31st. So chances are we will see a short-term extension to the surface transportation programs. Okay, probably the end of it might be the end of November. However, the end of November, lawmakers will be on recess for Thanksgiving. They'll have, I think it's a full week for Thanksgiving. So obviously they won't be there. Is it 1 week or 2 weeks? It might be 2 weeks. I'll have to look that up. But they will be on recess. So I don't see them coming back, the day after Thanksgiving in order to pass a bill. Could happen, but I just don't see it happening. Now, here's what I can tell you. This week is supposed to be a very important week. According to multiple reports, okay, the House's goal is to consider the bipartisan bill within the next couple of weeks. This week is probably just going to be the negotiation aspect of the human infrastructure bill so that they can pass the bipartisan bill in the next 2 weeks. They also plan on getting the Build Back Better Act done before the end of the upcoming work period, okay? So they got a little bit of time there. House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer, he says that the discussions are continuing and moving forward, so that's good news there. However, they are still moving fairly slowly. One of the things that we are hearing is that Democrats, they want to really push forward with the budget reconciliation bill and pass this potentially $2 trillion human infrastructure package. The problem is they don't want to take the budget reconciliation bill off the table, or that reconciliation card off the table, because they might be forced to use that to raise the debt ceiling. So let me explain what's happening here. Let me actually read this to you from Senate or House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer. He says, and I quote, this was in a letter, he says, "The House will explore options to remove the threat that the debt limit poses over the long term. Now that Republicans have demonstrated a willingness to weaponize it for partisan purposes, the House may consider legislation as early as this month to do so." So in the next couple of weeks, the House is going to explore different options to remove the debt limit. Okay? So, one of the things that could happen, Congress could say, you know what, let's take this, instead of us deciding on the debt limit, let's just give that job over to the Treasury Secretary. That's Janet Yellen. And she would potentially either just increase the debt ceiling or she would just completely get rid of it. Some say just get rid of it. Because right now, all the debt ceiling does is gives the minority party a little bit more power to not allow the majority party to pass whatever they want to pass. So that's really the only issue with the debt ceiling at this time. Democrats say that it's not a good thing because they have the power. But when Democrats don't have the power, or if they don't have the power in the future, well, then Republicans are going to try to increase the debt ceiling. And Democrats will be like, no, we can't do that. So that's currently what's currently holding things up, is because some moderates say, you know what, we need the debt ceiling. It needs to be here because it provides a little bit of balance between the two parties. So we'll see. But if they do not decide to just push that responsibility over to the Treasury Secretary, the other option is they could actually do a budget reconciliation and increase the debt ceiling. But if they do a budget reconciliation before 2022, they would use their 2021 budget reconciliation. They got one more. So that means they either pass the debt or increase the debt ceiling by itself, they increase the debt ceiling and pass the human infrastructure bill together, or they just pass the human infrastructure bill. So according to multiple reports, this is one of the reasons why Democrats are wanting to delay the human infrastructure bill, but pass the $1.2 trillion bipartisan bill, because this would give them more options moving forward. But again, we will see what actually happens there. So it's either Democrats remove the debt ceiling, they work to increase it through the budget reconciliation, or they do both at the same time. But again, as to what they are planning, I think it all depends on how quickly moderates and progressives can come together and finalize this human infrastructure bill. So let's talk about the upcoming housing market crash, because a lot of people are asking, should I be buying a home? Should I be investing in real estate? Should I be taking my money out of the markets? Here's what we know. According to multiple economists, not just recently, but over the past 4 to 6 months as well, they are saying there will not be a crash. There won't be a crash like we saw in 2008. We won't just see housing prices they were going up, going up, going up. Then all of a sudden they come crashing back down. It's not going to happen. Here's the reason why. They say a housing market correction could happen, but it probably will not happen until sometime in or after 2023. So that means in like 2 years. That is at the earliest is 2023. Many economists expect the markets to go up even higher. Even Goldman Sachs put out a report saying that the housing market is going to increase another 16% in 2022 alone. Currently, we are already up 20% year over year. So we're going to see it go up an additional 16%. That's pretty big. They say that the housing shortage will actually be one of the shortages that takes the longest to fix. It will be one of the longest lasting shortages that we have. Here's the reason why. They are saying we are seeing so many issues within the supply chain. We don't have enough products to build houses. We don't have enough construction workers to even construct the homes. We can't even pour foundations because we do not have the workers. The lack of available lots makes things very difficult. One of the things that we saw a lot of is people were buying up lots, not to hold and then resell for a profit. They were buying up lots because eventually what they wanted to do was build their homes, build their dream home in their dream locations. Well, that's becoming an issue because people that currently have homes also have lots. They also have a lot that they can go and build their dream home on. Eventually, once they, construction prices come down, lumber prices drop a little further, come back to more of a normal price, right? And we see there's people that will actually build the home. But in the meantime, people are going to hold their house. They're going to hold on to their lot. They're not going to sell them. That's creating an issue. And they say having delays in planning and permits also makes building that much more difficult because workers do not just want to sit around waiting for a permit. They don't want to just sit around waiting for your plans to be approved. They want to start building and build today. But if they can't, they'll move on to the next project. And most of these projects at this time are simple renovations. Yes, the American people have a bunch of money just sitting on the sidelines. So what do? They renovate their existing homes. That's currently what we're seeing. So if you're hoping to get a good deal on a home at this time, just waiting for the market to drop, well, that's probably not going to happen. Now let's get to the COVID news for today. The FDA panel is going to now discuss possibly mixing vaccines in order to boost the antibody levels. According to recent studies, mixing Moderna and Pfizer would actually increase the antibodies and help fight off COVID symptoms much better. There was a study done in the UK. It was followed up with a study done here in the United States, and they have both confirmed the same results. Mixing the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine works fairly well. In the UK, they were actually mixing BioNTech and was it BioNTech and Moderna, I believe? And the two of them actually increased the antibodies even better. So the FDA says they still need to discuss this because there are some adverse side effects, but it is improving the efficacy rate for the vaccine. So that is good news there. We also know that within just the next 9 days, or in 9 days, the FDA will discuss the COVID vaccines for 5 to 11-year-olds. Here's what we can expect. Many are anticipating that the emergency use authorization is going to pass. They will approve this, and the US is already telling people to be ready by November 1st because that will be when we start vaccinating our children. So Whether you decide to do this or not, it's really up to you, but experts say that getting 50% of our children ages 5 to 11 vaccinated would greatly reduce the amount of transmission within schools, which is one of the higher rate of infection with current places. And they say that this would actually allow schools to get back to normal in early 2022. Again, this depends on people actually going to get the vaccine and doing it quickly. If people don't go and get it or don't do it quickly, it may not be early 2022. It may be towards the late part of 2022 once we really start to see more children are becoming vaccinated or are reaching that natural immunity by actually contracting COVID. So that is what we know as of right now. Again, I just want to thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Have an incredible Sunday. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.